Good evening, everyone. I'm Gene Bailey. You're watching FlashPoint, and we're glad you're with us tonight. Go share this program everywhere because we got special guests in studio, as well as we have Lance Wallnau somewhere in America. Actually, he's just across town. Let me welcome my panel tonight, Lance Wallnau, Pastor Hank Kuhneman, and Pastor Jurgen Matthias, who is recently back from the land down under. How was your trip, and how is Australia? Are they waking up yet?
They are. Australia is waking up, and I got to speak at a big pastors conference, 1,300 pastors, and I am telling you, the first two sessions were deer in the headlights. The last ones were standing ovations. There's a hunger, there's an awakening that's happening. It really is. It's the Trump phenomenon happening right around the world.
It's so good to hear. So good to hear. And with me right here in studio, Lee Wamsgans, candidate for Senate in the state of Texas. Thank you for being here, Lee.
Thanks for having me.
Now, some people may recognize, they're going, hey, I have seen you somewhere before. It's because you were joining us on several of our FlashPoint events, telling people how to get out and do stuff. And here you are, you're doing stuff.
I've been active for over 34 years in politics, everything from helping candidates get elected, working on legislation, to policy, to trying to get our crazy Texas taxes down. So
thank you.
We heard God's calling and we listened.
Yeah, all right. Amen to that, for sure. All right, so I was going to say what possessed you. That's probably not the right terminology. How did you get from doing what you've been doing, which has been phenomenal, and helping people and how to get involved, to deciding to make this jump to run for Senate?
Sure. I think at first you have to understand whenever you're going to run for office, you have to make sure that your spouse is in complete agreement with you, because politics is very difficult on a marriage and on a family. And my husband was 100% behind it. And then, of course, we went to the Lord, because as I've always said, I really like to lift up good candidates and train people on how to get active and how to take their cities back, their states back. But this was an opportunity that opened up, and the Lord just spoke to me that it's time to step in and do this. And since then, I've realized that it's a bigger picture than we even realized, because, God saw ahead. God already knew that.
Absolutely.
I didn't know that, the state of Texas has 31 state senators. Each district has about 1 million people. What we didn't know at the time was that there's 11 Democrats and 20 Republicans. 5 of those state senators have either, resigned or retired. So that is 25% of our state Senate that's up for election. And this is an open seat here and going on right now with early voting.
Yeah, wow. All right, if you don't know who Lee is, let's roll this video intro into Lee Wamsgans and who she really is. Watch.
Hi, my name is Lee Wamsgans. Yes, Wamsgans. W-A-M-B-S-G-A-N-S-S. Maybe I should just stick with Lee. I'm the conservative Republican candidate for Texas Senate. This special election will be held on Tuesday, November 4th, the same day as the constitutional amendment election. I've got a proven 30-year record of grassroots leadership, standing up for Texas families, defending constitutional liberties, and holding government accountable. Learn more about me, Lee Wamsgans, on my website at leefortexas.com. I hope to earn your support.
What is it you want to do, Lee? What is driving you? What is it you want to see changed when you get into the Senate?
First of all, I want to see a person who honors God and loves God hold this seat. Secondly, there are 23 cities in this district, 13 school districts in this district. And everywhere I go across the district, the top 2 main concerns are always the same. It's public safety, that includes border security, and taxation. Texas's property taxes are so high. We've got hardworking Texans that are being taxed out of their homes. So those are 2 items that I want to go to work for. One of the things that Republicans really need to be paying attention to now, we sometimes have a tendency to sort of sit back and relax when we have a good leader in the White House, and President Trump and Border Czar Holman have done a fabulous job sealing our border. But Texas can never again be caught with an open border, regardless of who is in the White House. We're the 8th largest economy in the world. We have a $2.7 trillion GDP. Texas can afford to keep that border safe, and it should be a first priority of all legislators in Austin to make sure that border stays safe.
Why do you think that it hasn't been the #1 priority?
Well, I think a lot of times that our state legislators, they've had to rely on the feds, right? I think it had to get so bad with Biden, with over 11 million illegal immigrants coming over the border, and our law enforcement officers seized enough fentanyl to kill every man, woman, and child in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. I think it had to get that bad for us to realize that we needed to come back and figure out that we needed to do something about it.
Well, you're doing really well because you're gaining some great endorsements. Here's Sheriff of Tarrant County, close to here. Watch what he has to say.
State Senate candidate Lee Wamsgone supports law enforcement officers and will ensure they have the needed equipment and training to stop human trafficking. And when it comes to protecting Texas, I know that Lee will lead the charge in bail reform to keep violent repeat offenders behind bars. That's why I support Lee for Texas Senate.
Working with and supporting law enforcement is one of my top priorities.
Lee Wamsgone, endorsed by President Trump in the special election November 4th.
All right, so speaking of that, Donald Trump posted on his Truth Social, Lee Wamsgone's incredible candidate. You got incredible.
I got incredible.
You got an incredible, who will be a fantastic state senator for Texas District 9. America First Patriot, worked tirelessly to champion school choice, which is a big deal for us here in Texas. Thank you. And all these great things you're going to do and protect our always under siege Second Amendment, which is really big, important for those of us in Texas. You've also earned the strong backing of my friend, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, and many other respected leaders in Texas. She will not let you down. Tell me about that. Were you surprised you got this endorsement?
Well, it's surprised and humbled. If you would have told high school Lee, who, my parents got divorced when I was in high school, and my mom paid the rent and the utilities, and I bought the groceries, and that it wasn't sad. It was her and I against the world. We were, kind of a team. And but if you would have told that kid that one day you'll be almost 60 and running for state office and that the President of the United States would endorse you,
right,
I would have not believed you. But, it's really been sort of an accumulation of a lifetime of activism, a lifetime of working on bills. I was a huge supporter of President Trump, huge supporter of Ted Cruz, who I did a call with earlier today. And it's just wonderful that they've seen my work and they've come out and endorsed me.
That is wonderful, wonderful. All right, but things have not been all roses. In fact, we have a picture that your opponent posted of you. Tell us, before we show it, tell us what happened.
So I was actually leaving an event last Saturday, and I saw this text come out. Now, there's been a million hit pieces. In fact, the hit pieces on me started early June, before my current opponent even filed. And so, you just ignore it. Being in politics 34 years, you just keep the main thing, keep your eye on God, keep working on getting out the votes. But then I zoomed into that photo, and I saw what they did to my necklace.
All right, go back to the photo, yeah.
Zoom into the necklace on that photo, and you can see that they photoshopped the cross upside down. And I will tell you, I consider myself pretty tough, but that shook me. It sort of went to my core. But within an instant, I snapped back, and it was just evidence that none of this is political. This is all spiritual.
It sure is. Pastor Hank, you're hearing Lee talk about this, and of course, before I leave this topic, you reached out and they changed it and deleted it, right?
No, so actually they didn't change it and delete it. That was left that way Saturday, Sunday, Monday morning it hit the news. Once it hit the news, Monday afternoon, they photoshopped it back.
Oh. Well, there you go. Pastor Hank, you hear what Lee's talking about. This is a very, very much a spiritual battle. And the reason we're spending time in Texas talking about this, because this is nationwide. Of course, it's an important race here for us, but understanding what she just said, the fact that this is a spiritual battle, which is what we've said on FlashPoint all along, we must stand up and understand the battle we're in. Speak to that.
Yeah, well, it is. It's been a spiritual battle. But one thing we also have to remember, we're in the middle, in the spirit that is going to manifest in the natural, of a turning point or a shift change. What do I mean? Exodus 8, you could see the narrative. When it looked like the magicians who operated with the satanic could emulate and do everything that God was doing through Moses and Aaron, until something shifted. It was the finger of God. It was the God factor that inserted himself and caused everything to shift to where the occult and the spiritual warfare, they said, we cannot do this. In other words, their power was restrained and neutralized. And this is what is going to continue in America, but also Texas. God said a righteous rebellion would come upon the United States of America. And I'm telling you, what we're seeing with your guest tonight is part of that righteous rebellion. It's not just the people. It's those who will rise up and rebel against the darkness and the evil, who will stand for righteousness. And Texas shall be a prototype in this nation for what God is going to do through our government, legislation, and the people.
Yeah, Lance, I need you to weigh in here. I mean, that was a good word Pastor Hank just gave. Yeah, absolutely. Let me get your take here.
Well, look, here's the deal. If you're in Texas and you don't support Lee, you got to realize this is the most practical way you can use your agency. You may get frustrated that you can't change everything in Washington. You can't take on all the Democrats, but you could certainly use your authority locally. I'm always excited, Gene, when you bring someone on who has a track record with us of standing courageously. Before she was running for office, she was actually a voice for the MAGA movement. So, and this upside down cross, I mean, actually that's a symbol of Satanism. Makes you wonder, doesn't it, if her opponent doesn't have even occult people working there? I'm not saying that's true, but the wickedness that we're seeing unveiled in the political arena is almost like the difference between, like Hank said, Moses and Aaron and the magicians in Pharaoh's court.
Yeah, without a doubt. All right, Pastor Jurgen, I get you to weigh in. I know you're all the way over there in California, and this is Texas, but this is something we need to stand up for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the devil is a master of smearing, and they know that the heart of Texas is conservatism. They love God, they love faith, they love family, they love freedom, and to Photoshop a cross upside down on a candidate that just shows how threatened they are and how despicable they are, that they will stoop to no depths to try to smear a candidate, but it's going to backfire on them. Like Pastor Hank said, they're desperate, they're cornered, and God is rising in this nation. People are done with woke, and there is a new conservative wave. There's a wave of a hunger for God and a hunger for righteousness, a hunger for truth, a hunger for justice rising in the nation.
Without a doubt. And thank you, Lee, for standing strong. Of course, thank you for what you've done with FlashPoint, but you were with us in Pensacola, Florida, and that's one of the stories we love to tell, how you and Rick Green were there, and you talked about standing up, and two ladies from that event went home on a Saturday morning after the Friday night event, and Monday, it just so happened to be Monday, they were able to flip their school board because of what they learned at an event. So thank you for what you've been doing. And we support you in all that you've done. But I want to get your take on something. Let's go to number 2, guys. This is Speaker Mike Johnson. Let's talk about the government shutdown, because I want to get Lee's take on this before she leaves. The hypocrisy of Democrats on the government shutdown they created is undeniable and indefensible. Watch Obama lay it out.
You don't like a particular policy or a particular president? Then argue for your position. Go out there and win an election. Are some of these folks really so beholden to one extreme wing of their party that they're willing to tank the entire economy just because they can't get their way on this issue? Are they really willing to hurt people just to score political points? Republicans in Congress chose to shut down the federal government. Let me be more specific. One faction of one party in one house of Congress, in one branch of government, shut down major parts of the government, all because they didn't like one law.
All right, so Lee, the hypocrisy of him calling exactly what we're dealing with now with the government shutdown, how do we deal with this in our government? How do we deal with it?
Well, the only way to deal with it is we have to send reinforcements. We have to get better people elected. But this hypocrisy isn't new. This has happened time and time again. And one of the things they're fighting for is to give hard-earned American tax dollars to people who live here who are not legal citizens.
Right.
That's one of their claims to fame. And, I'm proud of the Republicans for standing strong right now. But we have the same thing in Texas. When the Texas Democrats, when they run into something they don't like, they flee the state.
Yeah, they leave the state.
They leave the state. They just abandon their post, and they abandon all the people that put them in that post. None of those things are ethical, and none of those things are righteous.
Yeah, so Pastor Hank, what if they did that? They just left the church if they didn't like the way you preached on Sunday.
Boy, I don't think that ever happens, Gene, does it?
Never, ever, 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 never.
No, I don't think so.
No, all right, let me show, let's talk about this shutdown thing. Pastor Jurgen, you just came back from Australia. We were talking about that earlier. Compare the government, what you know about what's going on in Australia and what's going on here with this government shutdown. Are we compare and contrast what we're looking at here between these two countries? Any similarities?
You know what? There's a lot of similarities. They're under a very, very leftist, globalist leader right now, and there is strong lament. And I think in that lament, there's a rise happening within the church, realizing, hey, we've decided to tap out in the past. We can't tap out anymore. We have to engage in politics. But at the same time, there's an envy of our Constitution. They are all watching. They are all eyes on America, watching the way that the righteous are rising and fighting back. And I think that's the big thing. I think this is probably one of the first times I've really seen the righteous unifying and fighting, not backing down, not giving way to the Democrats. We know the Democrats are hypocrites. That's who they are. If they didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any standards at all. So, but to see the righteous rising up, I think is a really powerful sign.
Yeah, without a doubt. But Lance, we're seeing, and let's be real. We got the same problem with Republicans in Texas. We got the same problem with Republicans in D.C. This is not a problem only on the left side. However, right now they're not in power and they're acting like this more righteous authority than who they really have. How are we going to see this change, Lance? Do you think the Dems will give in, or are we in for the long haul of a shutdown?
Well, let's define the problem. That half solves the equation. The Republicans are weak, but they're on the right side of principle. If Donald Trump ever stops leading them, they're limp. They just simply don't have that martial zeal and muscular energy that Trump has. But Trump gets them. He pulls them over the finish line all the time. So the Democrats, on the other hand, and I'm serious about this, I understand the weight of what I'm about to say. They have America's cleaved in such a way that powers of darkness are now mobilizing within a political entity. You see this in the socialist, communist, anti-Semitic campaign that's about to perhaps win New York, the financial district of the United States, in their mayor election. But the Democrats, Gene, they're pushing this knowing that 40 million Americans are dependent on government food, knowing that you're going to try to fly to Washington. You and I are going to fly around. But now air traffic control will stop getting paid as of like Saturday. They want to push the No Kings rebellion to the point of riots in the city. They want Trump to have to deploy the National Guard. They want to see ATMs pulled out of the banks and Walmart broken into by angry crowds who need food. They are willing to bring the United States down in order to access power. That's the nature of the evil we're up against.
Well, thank you for saying, because we mentioned this. I mentioned this on the last night's show. It's not about just winning an election. Much more sinister approach, and it's so the very definition of understanding the rules for Marxism. If you go back and study any of the communist theologies that are out there about how you do this, this is it, to create chaos and to create instability, and that's exactly what we're doing. Look, we have a mayor in Los Angeles, in Karen Bass, who openly says she's communistic, she's left-leaning, loves Marxism, and somehow they voted her in. I mean, Jurgen, that's your state in L.A., one of the biggest cities in America, and look at what has been sucked in, and it's evil. It's just flat evil of what we're having to deal with.
Yeah, we're about to vote on, Prop 50, which is the redistricting, the nightmare that Gavin Newsom is drawing up. And it's very interesting. The envelopes that came out in our ballots had a little round circle cut out on the front where when you placed your ballot in, if you tick no to vote against it, it showed up. And literally it's fraud. Karen Bass is in because of fraud. They're all in because of fraud. Donald Trump is pushing back. And I think even now we are rallying our church and other churches to get out and vote no. We're turning our ballots back to front so you can't see. So they have to count it. They have to include it. We're instructing other people to do the same. But there's been so much corruption. I keep telling everybody, California is not blue. It's corrupt.
That's true. Well, and we do know that there's a whole lot more red to California than what anybody wants to tell you. And there's a whole lot more red in Texas than people want to tell you. But it's some of those cities and the deception and the flat out stealing. All right, let me show you this. This is the Dems holding Americans hostage.
Of course, there will be, families that are going to suffer, but it is one of the few leveraged times we have.
What she said, that quote you just played, is the quiet part out loud. I mean, they don't care if people suffer. I mean, this is a political game to them.
They are intentionally making families suffer, and it is shameful.
As Bernie Sanders says, if the government shut down, if we reopen the government, we, quote, lose our leverage. So they see paying federal workers and military men and women as leverage.
The Democrats have voted to keep the government shut down 10 times over. Again, we're on our 20th day. I think Chuck Schumer is playing Russian roulette with America's safety.
Republican leadership, both sides, are ready to sit down and to work on the issues that we all care about. But you can't do it when you're holding the government hostage, when you're holding people hostage.
This is an added stress for all those people that are working, that are doing hard jobs like Border Patrol or air traffic controllers. On top of that, there's 2 million recipients of SNAP that will not be getting their benefits.
Democrats are refusing to pay support staff and Capitol Police during the government shutdown, but still force them to work overnight Wednesday so a lawmaker could rail against the Trump administration from an empty Senate chamber.
If you won't at least open the government, as we have the last 13 times, at least pay the people that are working.
They are working, they're showing up every day. The least we can do is actually pay them, make sure they get a regular paycheck. And the Democrats voted against it.
I just can't stand to see good people get hurt because of this nonsense that's going on here.
As you know, I'm one of the newest members here in Washington, and I can tell you without a doubt, I understand fully why Americans hate this place.
Yeah, I think she's right. Americans do have maybe hate's a strong word, but I think they do hate the politics that we're seeing. Lee, yesterday, DFW, and Lance referred to this and in that video as well, the safety is at risk. DFW, FAA, they're already shutting down, the airport with big delays because of air traffic controllers that aren't getting paid or not showing up, whatever. I mean, this is you're grinding America to a halt.
Yeah.
How does that change?
The Democrats have proven that they care more about their political power than the American people. And it's over and over and over. Right. I mean, I don't know how much more we have to do to get it through to Democrat voters that they don't care about you. It is the Republican Party who cares about the hardworking Americans. It is the Republican Party who's trying to give these benefits to hardworking Americans, not criminal, illegal aliens. You need to really dig in, and I'm talking to your Democrat people out there because we really need people to stop and think and get away from the rhetoric, get away from the talking points. Look what's really happening. The Democrats have over and over and over proven they do not care about hardworking Americans.
But you care, don't you?
Absolutely.
All right. So leefortexas.com, patriots.com. Anything else you want to say, Lee, before we let you go? Thank you for being on and coming back on and all that you're doing.
Thanks so much for having me. In Texas, early voting goes until 7 o'clock Friday night, and then Election Day is Tuesday. And there's some very important amendments on this ballot as well that can save Texans a lot of tax dollars.
Okay. All right. There you have. All right. Speaking of election night, November 4th, election night in America will be right here live from 7 to 9 p.m. Central. We will cover all of these elections and some of the ballot initiatives that are there as well. And we'll be covering Lee and her race, as well as what's going on in New York and governor race in Virginia, governor race in everywhere, New Jersey. Thank you for being here, Lee. Best to you, and we will see you right after this.
When you show up in FlashPoint gear, you're more than a fan. You're part of the Army. Rep the voices you trust and the truth you believe in.
FlashPointStore.com has new merchandise.
Gear that sparks a conversation. Let the world know you're standing strong, always to the right of center.
Make sure you wear FlashPoint. Always show your colors.
Shop the collection now at FlashPointStore.com. Don't just blend in. Stand out. Be part of the Army.
The War Room is calling. Join the FlashPoint War Room, a powerful community of believers standing together in prayer, unity, and bold support. Get exclusive updates on what God is doing right now through this movement. Stand in faith, stand for truth, and stand with FlashPoint as we press into what God is doing in this season. Whether you're a pastor, intercessor, or a passionate viewer, this is your call to action. Go to fparmy.com and join the War Room today. There's never been a more important time to be bold and speak truth. FlashPoint is answering the call. There's no shortage of vision, and it's time to impact culture in every way we can. And we can't do it without you.
We must do more. We can't just sit back and wait. That's why your gift makes such a difference here at FlashPoint.
Your giving fuels everything we are doing here at FlashPoint. We're here to equip, activate, and disciple, and your support makes this possible. FlashPoint is a 501c3, and your tax-deductible donation goes directly to the mission. Give at fparmy.com/donate or text FLASH to 28950. It's secure, quick, and makes an impact. If mailing your donation, send it to FlashPoint, P.O. Box 1, Newark, Texas, 76071. Stand with us. Speak truth. Be the light. This is FlashPoint.
Welcome back to the second half of FlashPoint. We're glad you're back with us. So much more to talk about. All right, gentlemen, I want to show you. Let's check in on some of these races that's going on. President Trump endorsed Lee. We talked about that. But let's pick it up here with what's going on with the Mikey Sherrill race. Colin Rugg posts, Democrat New Jersey Governor Mikey Sherrill malfunctions after getting questioned on allegedly making millions from stock trades. Oh, really? Watch.
So when Newsmax claims that you made $7 million from stock trades, what are they talking about?
Newsmax is, first of all, a very questionable organization that is paying multiple fines. I'm not sure what they're talking about.
Well, did you make $7 million in stock trades at all? Or?
I haven't. I don't believe I did, but I'd have to go see what that was alluding to. Again, what kind of came from.
Doesn't matter, because I'm going to make sure that he doesn't get to serve again when I win for governor in November of this year.
There's another big difference between her public service and my public service. It actually cost me money the time I put in and took away from my company. In the 7 years that she's been in Congress, she's tripled her net worth. There's another big difference between the two of us, okay? She broke the law. She had to pay fines for violating federal law on stock trades and stock reporting, and the New York Times reports that while you're sitting on the House Armed Services Committee, you were trading defense stocks.
Oh, this is so good. Welcome to the program, our good friend KrisAnne Hall, constitutional attorney. All right, KrisAnne, I'll let you go first on that. I don't know if I made $7 million or not. I may have, I may not. I don't know. What do you think?
It's a very strange thing when you are on a public platform and someone accuses you of a crime publicly, and then you don't sue them for libel. That's a really big deal. So I just, it's very stunning to me that that a person would be so bold and so arrogant to be in a position like that and then not have an answer for it.
Without a doubt. Pastor Inc., have you made $7 million and you don't know where it is?
Well, I made 8, so I'm not sure where the other, 7 went. So, Gene, I don't know how to answer that, so I came up with a dumb answer, okay?
That was good, though. I appreciate that because it's a dumb question. It's a dumb question.
All right, it was a dumb question. And people think that my answer was dumb just like they thought her answer was dumb. That was the point of my dumb answer.
No, you're good. All right.
No, Gene,
Yes.
you remember the time when Trump was running? And this was my favorite moment because they took out, what's his name? He ran earlier. So they said, Donald Trump is a billionaire, and they set his net worth at like $4 billion. And in Forbes magazine, and Romney ran, and he was backing up from him being a wealthy man. Trump goes and grabs the microphone and says, Forbes is completely dishonest. I have a lot more money than that. The Trump brand alone has me at $8 billion to $12 billion. And everybody laughed because it was the exact opposite. And the truth is, if you make your money legally, I think Trump has changed the game to say, I came out of the private sector because I do real good. I'm tired of my friends getting ripped off. I know how they play the game. I know how to make money. I know how to save money. I'm going to help you all get rich, and we're going to deal with this swamp. That actually is a great Republican line.
It is. However, her making money was not exactly legal. And that's why she's...
Well, yes, her making money was illegal, and the fact that she didn't know about it, and it's like, Newsmax, it's like, yeah, Newsmax, and she doesn't remember. Wow.
Yeah, that's bizarre. All right. Well, I might as well go around the horn. Pastor Jurgen, do you have like $7 million you don't know where, if you made or not?
Yeah, I mean, I'd certainly know where it was, and if I didn't, my wife certainly would. But it's becoming more and more exposed. The insider trading, the illegal rackets run by the left, and you only have to look at when they entered the political environment to where they are now, how much their stock, how much their net worth has risen. And you look at the righteous, people like Donald Trump, who went in at their own expense, gives his salary away. But the left are not like that. They are literal grifters and hypocrites. So I'm glad she's getting called out, and I'm glad that she's got a warrior that she's running against, because the race looks like in New Jersey moving away from her towards the righteous, and we've got to just make sure we keep praying for that.
Yeah, amen. And so listen, if you live in New Jersey, and we've got a lot of people live in New York and New Jersey, so New Jersey, come on. If you haven't voted, make sure you vote November 4th for the right person. Get the word out. If you know somebody in New Jersey, make sure they're voting and getting the word out. Chittarelli is moving in the right direction. He's within the margin of error now. So depending on which poll you listen to or look at. And let me say this about polls. Lance, well, no, I'll go to Chrisanne. Chrisanne, do you remember when Trump was running against Hillary Clinton, the day of the election, they said 95 Clinton, 5 Trump. And he won 2016. This is why we can't listen to polls.
Well, there's a saying, statistics don't lie, but liars use statistics. And that's what we have to understand. Polls are not a truth-telling mechanism. They're actually a bias propaganda controlling mechanism, because you see, you can buy, what you're doing is paying a company to craft a question to elicit the response that you want, that you're paying to get. So polls are actually very artistically crafted and articulately crafted to give the answer that the person is paying that wants to hear.
Yeah, without a doubt. In fact, let me give you an example. We could talk about the Second Amendment and gun ownership. You could see a poll that says absolutely, 95% against gun ownership. Then if you drill down and they actually do publish the results, which they should always publish the source and how many people were polled, they'll say, oh, they polled 1,200 people in Boston versus a poll in Dallas or Fort Worth, Texas, or Houston, where you're going to get two totally different results. Now, they always, and I am amazed, Lance, I'll go to you. I'm amazed at what should be good journalism with these news agencies that will put out programmers that will put out polls and not tell you who did the poll, the margin of error. You should always be able to drill down and see all the data on the poll. That's called good journalism, and we're just not seeing it in the media today.
All right, Gene, we've been getting sophisticated because as Christians, we came into this thing when Obama became president, I began to read stuff from Dinesh D'Souza, and I got educated to the fact that politics is a lot more dangerous, a cultural formation thing than I thought. And then by the time that Donald Trump came along, I was all in. I got it. Now, Trump is in the midst of a counter-revolution, seizing all 7 mountains. If you look at it that way, he's reclaiming all those domains. I'm saying that because we've gotten smarter as we've gone along. And I exhort our FlashPoint audience, listen to almost no polling data. They're paid for by sources that want the bias. They're designed to manipulate public perception.
That's right.
And the difference there would be Rasmussen has a guy called the Honest Poller who's on a lot. A guy named Seth Ketchel. He's called Captain Ketchel. You can get him on Substack. These are the people who are honest. One of them I know personally, Seth, and they will tell you the raw facts. You need to avoid the rest of it because it's as bad as the New York Times.
Yeah, without doubt. In fact, it's a good point. We need to call Captain Seth and have him back on here to give us an idea of what's going on. Let's go to Virginia. Eric Doherty posts this. Breaking: the Virginia Attorney General's race has officially flipped in favor of the Republicans. Watch. No, it's just a tweet. Don't watch. Read along with me. It was exposed. Jay Jones wants conservatives and their children dead. Jason Miyares is up 2.4 points over Democrat Jay Jones. 6-point lead flipped. Winsome still trails Abigail Spanberger. Republicans must turn out. I think the AG has the best shot at going red. All right, so this is an opportunity here where we can either sit back on our laurels and go, hey, we got this thing wrapped up. We got the AG race because of Jay Jones wanting to do horrific things to his opponent's kids. Or we can keep pushing the pedal forward. And Pastor Hank, I'll let you talk about this. We must not back down in what we're doing.
No, I think where we're at in our country is when Moses had to go to the people in Numbers 32, and he said, why do you sit here while the rest of us are going to war? And then he said, why do you discourage the hearts of the people? So I know people today, Gene, sadly, since Trump has been in office, you talk to them, and they somehow think that everything is just going to kind of fix itself. Well, no, they're choosing to sit it out. If there's ever a time to engage in battle, it is now. We cannot let up, not 1 inch. And here's what I feel. I feel like we're in a window. Judges 3, the people cried out for a deliverer. And the Bible says in Judges 3 that God heard, and he raised up King Othniel, who had a likeness unto the Lord, that did what was right. But the people slipped back after 40 years and began to do evil again. We cannot have that in our country. And I just want to say this last thing. Here's what we have to remember is look at the No Kings rally. And they talk about the great numbers that showed up. Really? Compared to the number of people in America, it is a small percentage. And that is the same thing that really is happening in our country. Most Americans do not believe in the liberal lunacy way. That's why we have to get out, be a voice, and let it reflect with our votes.
Without a doubt. Let me show you this. Pastor Jurgen, let you see Winsome Sears post. We've lowered taxes, spent responsibly, and kept government living within its means. Now Virginia's leading the nation with record revenues and 10,000 new jobs in 2 months. So you look at the little graph in the bottom right-hand corner. September revenues up 9.8%. Year-to-date revenues 7.9%. This is a statistic. This is not a poll, but it shows you what happens when the right people are in the right places. Pastor Jurgen.
Yeah, Proverbs 29 verse 2 says that when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. When the wicked rule, the people groan. And, you know, what we see over and over again is that the left traffics in anarchy, in chaos to get their way and then blame and smear. And they love psyops. Like even when we're talking about, you know, the No Kings crowds that turned out, well, if the crowds were so big, why did they have to Photoshop? And then why did they have to draw from footage from 2017 in Boston? Because the crowds didn't turn up. They know momentum's not on their side. Why do they use these polls or quote these polls? Because it's a psychological warfare. They know that there is a margin of 5 to 12% of people who are undecided. And nobody likes to back a losing horse, or nobody likes to board a sinking ship. So they bring these things out as warfare. And unfortunately, the righteous, the right, have sat back and allowed the left to dominate. They feed it all to the false prophets, the fake news media who run with it. And that's how they've been able to stay in power. But thank God Trump is our Elijah, because he's calling out fake news. He's calling out false prophets, and he's demanding truth and integrity in our elections.
Yeah, without a doubt. All right, Chrisanne, look at this clip. This is Speaker Johnson talking about the Democrat Party. Get you to comment. Watch.
They are ending what has always been known as the Democrat Party in America. After a months-long pressure campaign from the far left, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries finally relented. He gave in, and he gave his endorsement to the socialist running to be mayor of New York City. The House Democrats have chosen a side. They were forced to by that far left that they're so terrified of, and they've shown the world what they really believe. There is no longer a place for centrists and moderates in their party. The candidate that they have endorsed, Mamdani, is somebody who we've talked about a lot from this podium. He's sympathized with Hamas and openly embraced anti-Semitic language. He has called to, quote, seize the means of production because he is a Marxist. He's called to abolish our borders, to abolish and end immigration enforcement, to defund the police, and to legalize prostitution, among a long list of hits that I could share with you. Zoran Mamdani is expected to take the helm of one of the most important cities in the world and the largest city in America. And he now has the full blessing of the Democrat leader in the House of Representatives. It is shocking. And that leader and all the other Democrats are going to co-own the consequences of what they do to America's largest city.
All right, Chrisanne, your thoughts.
Well, we've been heading this way for a while in the Democrat Party. We've seen the far left optics, the ideological shift, and it's left the leadership in the Democratic Party with a conundrum. The interesting thing is, what I think we're seeing is the retaliation of the American people against what has been driven down their throat by all of the alphabet letter media outlets who want Americans to believe that this far leftist ideology is the majority, is the future of America. The reality is the future of America is in constitutionalism, it's in liberty, it's in godly principles. And the American population is beginning to really understand that. We see revivals across America like we've never seen before. We see revivals in the young people, in the colleges, in the very bastions of these these liberal propaganda enclaves. And what this really, really is are the American people getting tired of being told who they need to be, what they should be, and what the media wants us to be. And we're standing up and saying, whoa, wait a minute. We're American. This is not who we are. This is not how we started. This is not who we want to be. And we are going to be the America we were founded to be. We're going to stick with godly principles, and we're not going to accept the narrative anymore.
Yeah, he was great. I love it. Yeah, we need to not accept the narrative. You know, Lance, remember 2016, we talked about that 11% that's in the middle. It used to be that's every presidential election, we talked about the ultra right, the ultra left. You're not going to swing them. You want that 11% that's in the middle that doesn't know which way to vote. But we don't have that 11% anymore. They're either crazy left or hard right. And so we've got an issue coming up with exactly what we're saying. And New York is a great, Mamdani is a great example of exactly this, where you've got not just left, what he's taken with Hakeem Jeffries, the whole Democrat Party is saying, we want someone that stands for Islam to take over the largest city in America.
You know, I'm going to make a statement that's kind of wild, but I'm beginning to believe this more and more because I look at the data the pollsters are giving us. You know, Trump is on the 80-20, 70-30 margin. He's picking all the issues, including Americans don't want Marxism. They all want to participate. They don't want the government to tell them how much they can make. The Americans do want secure borders, et cetera. So that leads me to a conclusion. These pockets of blue, Gene, where we look at it and we think we got 11%. Tom Fenton just did a great message there on X, and he's got, you know, a couple of other, he was on War Room yesterday. He has stopped 5 million fake votes that are on the rolls from illegals. We got like 20 million illegals. Do you know how many of them actually are able to vote? He believes there's another 10 million of people that are illegal that can actually vote in the United States. And the places where this can be the strongest is those blue patches. There's your Seattle, your Portland, your Los Angeles, your New York. And I'm going to say this, where you see the concentration of people voting in these Marxists, you probably have corruption in the electoral process. But it's like Doge. They set fire to Elon Musk dealerships. He backed out. You didn't see Donald Trump say, let's go at it again, boys. He knows what's in there. There's a fight getting at that money. And I think the same thing is true with election integrity. Nobody, Pam Bondi, Cash, no one's taking the fight to where the fake votes are. And that has me more concerned now than it used to, because I don't think America's voting in the crazies. I think the corrupt party's putting themselves in office.
Yeah, I agree. So why are they not taking this on? That's my question. Why is this not being handled?
I think the institutional power of Washington, and look at it from a spiritual perspective. You know, you can be really bold when you're sitting there talking in your church, and then you get around another environment, and you feel a little smaller, and you don't know if you fit in, and everybody looks at you like you really don't belong there, and you start, unless you have a real anointing, you start to conform to the pressure, like Paul said.
Oh, sure.
But you start to conform. What happens up there in D.C., thank God for Donald Trump, because he cracks the whip with these guys. He says, go after him, go after him, go after him, and they go after him. But if Trump doesn't say deal with it, then what they do is they go for low-hanging fruit. And you're seeing a criminal cartel or a child sex trafficking ring, and you're going, hey, what happened to Brennan and Clapper and Comey? What happened to Obama? What happened to all that? That stuff's kind of aging out because the environment is not conducive to taking on the big principalities.
I'm so sad. Pastor Hank, your thoughts?
Well, Lance I think he just absolutely nailed what's happening and explains the spiritual battle over our country. But I do want to say something to Lance's point that I think is something that every one of us needs to remember. You know, oftentimes you hear, and of course the fake news, will push for it, and they make it sound like there's this mass majority and America is so divided. Well, if there is a division, it's because people are rising up. And it's 1 Kings 18:21. It's because there are two opinions. It's not that it's 50-50 in the United States of America, that you have 50% of your population that is this loony, twisted, wanting this kind of stuff for our children or for our present moment. I don't believe that. I believe it's caught between two opinions. The opinions are good versus evil, light versus darkness, sanity versus insanity. It's really that easy. And I really believe, to Lance's point, there has to be a prayer movement that begins to really hit these strongholds that are in Washington, D.C., but really over our country, so that people will not be bound with this deception that causes them sometimes to do very little or to feel fear to do something. And I believe that that is really the key if we're going to continue to see election integrity where it really needs to be in our country.
No. Speaking of elections, speaking of integrity, okay, it's kind of hard to put those in the same category, but you just got to watch this. This will make you smile. There's a new interview with the BBC that Kamala did. Watch.
Stories of your baby nieces, Amara and Leela. When are they going to see a woman in charge in the White House?
In their lifetime, for sure.
Could it be you? Possibly. Have you made a decision yet?
No, I have not.
But you say in your book, I'm not done.
That is correct. I am not done. I have lived my entire career a life of service, and it's in my bones. And there are many ways to serve. I've not decided yet what I will do in the future beyond what I am doing right now.
But you've been very clear that it's a possibility you might run again to become president. And in my experience interviewing politicians, when someone says, I'm not done, it means they are thinking seriously about running. But when you look at the bookies' odds, they put you as an outsider, even behind Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I mean, is that underestimating you?
I think there are all kinds of polls that will tell you a variety of things. I've never listened to polls. If I listened to polls, I would have not run for my first office or my second office, and I certainly wouldn't be sitting here in this interview.
I could just play that to the rest of the show. All right, we'll go around the horn. Chris Ann, I'll let you go first on that.
I mean, the look on her face is priceless, and I'm just not quite sure how that journalist got all of that out. But I think that look on her face would be the look of the American people if they found her on a presidential ballot. It'd have been the stereotypical of, are you kidding me? I mean, I just can't even imagine. And you know, I have lots of opinions about Kamala, but I'll just let them go. But I will say this, and I know this is controversial, and I say this to you as a constitutional attorney, as an historian, an American historian, American political historian. Kamala Harris is not a natural-born citizen. She should not be allowed to run for office as president.
Oh, you Christian nationalist, you. Okay, Lance, I'll give you an opportunity to talk about Kamala behind Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I mean, I didn't even know he was in the running. But.
Well, you know, Gene, wouldn't it be great if she actually did run? But I think you know, Gavin Newsom's the guy you got to keep an eye on. You got the Governor Shapiro and, you know, Pritzker. You know, we kind of know who they are. And I think that we really have to, like I said, the 20 million illegal votes that are out there, Judicial Watch is exposing it. You guys, use your agency. You're the FlashPoint Army. Go check out what Judicial Watch is saying. I think we can make a fair election so that Kamala or anyone like her could never get in office.
I mean, I agree, but I would like to see her run. Okay, Jurgen, your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I totally agree. I think that there's a number of factors that are in play. The first one is, you know, what I call the Judas factor. And a document just came out to show who was funding the No Kings rallies. And it was amazing. It was Soros. It was all the big billionaires. And one of the things that they know is that politicians are vulnerable and susceptible to taking donations, creative donations, so that they can look the other way or permit, Washington to just continue to do business as Washington does. And I think that is how the 20 million, fake votes are still out there. I tell everybody the 2020 election was won with ballots, not with actual votes. No signature verification, no chain of custody. And they're trying to use the same thing. Gavin Newsom right now is saying he's going to watch to see how 2026 midterm goes before he makes a decision whether he'll vote. In other words, he's going to see, is the voter fraud operation still in play? Is it still potent enough for me to throw my hat in the ring?
Wow. So I'm interesting. All right. In other news, I'm going to get to you, Pastor Hank, after this one. Let me show you. This is Robbie Starbuck. Everybody's concerned about AI. Here's another reason. Watch.
If you want to learn about someone, where's your first stop? Probably Google. Today I'm filing a massive lawsuit against Google.
Robbie Starbuck is accused of murder, assault, and multiple horrific rapes.
For 2 years now, various Google AI and search products have invented a staggering number of false and highly defamatory claims about me.
Robbie Starbuck is accused of child rape. Yes, he's on the Epstein list.
They've seemingly created a, quote, anti-conservative defamation machine and a, quote, horror show. Google's AI even admitted the truth.
I am begging you to share this information with the public. Google is a powerful and influential company, and it's abusing its power to manipulate public opinion and silence dissent.
Fake mainstream news stories, fake rape allegations, abuse, assault, and criminal activity, with links and headlines as if they're real stories. Google promised Congress that it would stop targeting conservatives, so now I'm suing Google.
There you go, Pastor Hank. I mean, this should make everyone shudder at what we're looking at with the AI used the wrong way. And Google's right there at the top of the list.
Yeah. Well, I think America right now is in, like with Joshua, when it was time to take the promised land, okay? Trump is our president. People are saying, hey, we're in the promised land. However, remember, there were two cities they had to fight against. Number one was Jericho with walls and shut-ins or shutdowns, correct, right? And the second one was AI. And it wasn't that AI, the city, was bad. It was God said, don't connect AI with the corrupt thing. And I think that's what God is getting ready to judge very harshly, is this that people are using with AI. But, Gene, I want to say this last thing before the close of the show. I think Kamala Harris ought to have a female ticket. Her and Kroc need to join together, president, vice president on the ticket, with Bernie Sanders, Secretary of Socialistic States of the United States of America. Okay? That's what I think.
Okay. All right. I'll give you 30 seconds, Chris Ann. Try and remedy that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how we can remedy that, but the reality is what we're watching is the restoration and the return of real American principles. And as you said before, this is not the time for us to sit back and watch. It's a time for us to be a part of the change. We, as the leaders of America, have to stop looking for leaders and start being them. And today is the day, and now is the time.
All right, Lance, you got 15 seconds. Do it.
Donald Trump, Gene, while we've been talking about these races, has been wrapping up trade deals for rare earth minerals all throughout the Asia-Pacific Rim. He's kind of on his way to China, showing them all the deals he's doing in their backyard, all part of him psyching them out before they meet.
All right, 15 seconds here. Pastor Jurgen, go.
Well, since Charlie Kirk's death, a beautiful statistic is last month we sold 1 million more Bibles in America than we've ever sold. And church attendance is up 41.6%. God is on the move.
God is on the move. Thanks to Lee Wamsgans, of course, Chris N. Hall, Pastor Hank Kuhneman, Lance Wallnau, Pastor Jurgen Matthesius. Listen, FlashPoint is here. We're going to keep taking it to the streets. Hope to see you very soon. See you Thursday night.